Hey all, welcome to the Docker Analogy series where we are learning and mastering Docker. In the last video, we have set up our environment. We have a Docker CLI setup done. We also ran a Docker Hello World, and it did output a lot of instructions and a lot of text commands. But the whole thing was pretty mysterious. But in this video, we will try to understand this even better. Now this is a high level architecture of the Docker and Docker Daemon, and you have the Docker CLI on the left hand side. So Docker CLI is a client and there could be multiple clients. For example, similar to Docker CLI, there is Docker desktop client as well. For example, let me open this. Now the kind of the way that you can issue commands from a command prompt, right? We can issue commands from here. Similarly, Docker desktop is also one of the clients which can issue commands, which can run the container, stop the container, and perform more or less same operations that you can do from Docker CLI. So there is no difference, and Docker Daemon Docker Daemon accepts those commands coming from either a CLI client or a desktop client. So when you run any command from either CLI client or a Docker desktop, those commands are then sent to Docker Daemon. Now Docker Daemon is also referred as Docker D. That is one of the core services of Docker, which is responsible for running the Docker show. Now Docker Daemon has its own database where it maintains the containers and the images, and when you issue a command, Docker D can honor those requests. And for example, let's say I want to know how many containers are currently running and what is their state. So when that request is received to Docker Daemon can check its database and receive the output that you are looking for. Similarly, when you run a command docker run hello world, what it does is docker run hello world is basically a combination of two commands. One is docker pull and one is docker run. So Docker Daemon first checks if that image is available locally. When we ran hello world, if you remember the first time, it did not have that image, so it was saying the image is not found locally, so it is going to pull that image. So what it did, basically it saw in local database if that image is available. It did not see that image, so it went back to the registry. Consider this as a cloud environment where the images are stored, and then you can pull those images if those are public images. And once those images are pulled, it is then saved into a local image database, and those images then can be referred. And we will go through that Docker Hello World one more time so that you understand what I'm saying here. Now this is similar to how the npm works. So if you have worked on a Node.js or some JS technology, right? When we use package.json, basically we specify the dependencies, and when you run npmi, what it does is it checks to see if those dependencies available locally. If not, it goes back to the npm.js, pull that dependency from there and stores it locally so that the same dependency can be reused later on. So that's how the same architecture we have for Docker, where we are trying to fetch an image, hello world image. If that doesn't exist locally, then it gets pulled and it gets stored in the local database. And the same image then is referred the next time. For example, let's quickly see what we did yesterday. So we have this docker run hello world. Okay. Now I have removed all the images. Okay. So it is going to behave that I am running this for the very first time. So looks like command is wrong. Docker run hello world. So it says unable to find the hello world latest image locally. So when you are not specifying a version, it is going to pull the latest version. And when we are actually designing or creating a new Docker image, we'll talk about this. What is this latest version? It is basically versioning that you do, right? You don't develop everything at once, but you kind of create new versions as per the new requirement. So same way this Docker versioning works. and based on your requirement you can choose to say, oh, you know what, I need Node.js 16, and let's say when you upgrade you can say I need Docker 18. So if you don't specify a version, then it is always going to pull the latest. But if you specify, if you have a requirement to pull the specific image, then you can choose to specify that I want specific version. Instead of latest, you can say Docker run hello world, Docker run hello world colon, let's say 11.5. That could be one of the versions. Coming back to the output, so it did not have this image locally. Then it went and pulled this image from, where did it pull from? It pulled from Docker Hub, and we are going to see what is that Docker Hub. So it pulled that image, and then it ran that specific image. So Docker run is a combination of two things. One is Docker pull and then Docker run. I want to quickly talk about this specific part. Where is this registry? Now this registry could be a public registry, could be a private registry, and then I will show you in some other videos how to actually create a private repositories and how to store your images there. We'll quickly go to Docker Hub now, where just like npm.js, there is this Docker Hub. So let's go to Docker Hub. Yeah, this is hub.docker.com. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and search hello world. Now this is the image that got pulled in our local database, and you can see the different tags here. Tags are nothing but version. So this got pulled Docker hello world colon latest, and it was pushed by a team around 3 days ago. But if you want a specific version, you can choose to do that, meaning I want a nano server version. So instead of saying latest, I can run Docker run hello world nano server. Okay, and if you come back to the overview, you can read about that specific image, which company has created it, what are different supported architectures, and it will have all the information that you want to know about this image. For example, let's say you want to search about node images, right? You can go to node images here, and you can get all the kinds of versions here. So if you go to now tags, it will tell you what is the latest version. Now this is Alpine 3.18. There are different kinds of images available, and you can choose to see, what, I want Docker 18, and if you want specific version, let's filter. Let's say you're working on Node.js 14. So you can get those specific images. So you will run Docker run and then node colon that specific version that you want to run. So this is about repository. Let's go back to our slide. I hope you understand on a high level how does Docker CLI works. Now I want to talk more about the CLI commands. Now a lot of times when people learn about Docker, they kind of remember some of the commands, and then when they are posed a new requirement, they kind of stutter. They are not able to understand what to do. They reach out to their dearest friend called Google, and they have to go through a lot of articles to understand what they want to do. This is similar to swimming. Like when you are newbie in swimming, you kind of hold your breath and you splash your water really hard because you are really scared. If you run out of breath, what will you do? Like you run the risk of sinking, right? So I think remembering commands is similar to that. Remembering few commands is like holding your breath, and as soon as you breathe, as soon as you run out of breath, then you run the risk of sinking in the water. So instead of that, I would love for you to understand how does Docker CLI works, and there are enough details available regarding Docker CLI on the Docker help itself. So instead of remembering anything, I would like you, or I would like to help you understand this better. So when you run docker -- help, it gives you more or less all the information, all the commands that you have. So it talks about first Docker is a self-sufficient runtime for containers, and these are some of the common commands people use. So we ran the run command yesterday, docker run. So it tells you that, okay, it creates and run a new container from an image. Now if you want to know more about this, what you can do is you can go docker run minus help. Now it will tell you more about docker run command. So it will tell you now docker, create and runs a new container from an image, and what sort of information is available. So the basic command is docker run, and then these are the options that you can provide. What is the CPU that you want to provide? Do you want to run it in a detached mode? What environment variables you want to provide? So those options you can provide. We did not give that option when we ran hello world. And then what is the actual image name that you want to provide? And then more commands, followed by more commands. So if you go down, you will see it doesn't have commands though, but you will see the self-sufficient guide on the docker run itself. And let's talk about other commands also. Okay, so docker minus help. Now let's say I want to know what are the containers which are running. Okay, so you have this command called docker ps. Okay, now I want to know what containers are running. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run docker ps. Now it tells you now it's an empty output. It tells you what's the container ID, what's the image, command created. But right now we are not seeing anything, but we did run the docker hello world, right? So containers should have been running. But the way containers work is when you run container, right, it does its job and then it exits, that process exits. And we will again delve into the details of this. And the hello world exited when it output the data, and after that it exited that process, so that process is gone. Now if you want to know how to list all the containers, let's run docker ps help. Now it will tell you some options, right? Then docker ps, after that you can provide some options here. Let's see what options are available. Now we have this -a or hyphen all, meaning show all containers. Default shows only just running. So when we ran docker ps, it only ran the running container, but it did not show the containers which exited. In our case, the container hello world had exited. So if I run docker ps -a, it will actually give me all the containers which are running, which exited. Now it tells you what was the container ID, what was the image that we used, what was the command. So we did not do this, but that was a default command that was run when the hello world container was running. It was created 9 minutes ago, and it exited around same time because it just output the data and then exited, right? It did not have any ports, and that was the name, like a random name given to this. Okay, so that's how easy it is. If you want to know about something, just do a docker help, and you will not have to remember anything. Basically, the thing about like in today's modern world, there are so many tools and so many technologies are coming, and it is difficult for anyone to be able to remember everything. So it is best that you have some hooks available with you, through which you can understand details and you can read things on the spot instead of trying to remember everything. Sorry. And there are some more commands. So I want to know how many images are available. So if I go back to this PPT, right, we saw this images as a local database. Now we just output the containers. Okay, the Docker Daemon honored our command, and it tried to show us what containers were running, what are stopped. Now we want to know what images we have locally. Okay, so if I do docker images, right, that's the command. So if you go to docker help, if I want to know what images do I have, so I see this command docker images. So if I see docker images, then it will show me what images do I have. Okay, so I can see hello world latest, and this is the image ID. So we can see everything now. Similar to this, there are many commands that you can explore, so you don't have to actually remember anything. Let me give another example. Now this is another command, docker load. What it does, load an image from a tar archive or stdin. Similarly, there is Docker save. So save one or more images to tar archive. Okay, so Docker load and Docker save are complementary, meaning if you want to save the existing image right now, when we do Docker images, it gives you this image name. But if you want to save this image in a tar file, that's when you use the save command. Okay, that's when you use save command to save that image into a zip or a tar format. And if you want to convert that zip or a tar image into a container or image, you use load command. So it's just that all the details regarding Docker and what it does are all of them are available. It's just that you have to spend little bit more time to go through it, be very patient, show that be very patient, and then you will be able to master it, and you will not have to remember anything. And that's the biggest thing in today's world, that with so many technologies it's difficult to remember, but you have to know a way to get that information on the fly. And this is your best friend. Anything you want, I want to, let's say, remove container. Now if I read through this, I can see, okay, remove one rm if I do docker rm, okay, it removes one or more container. If I do rmi, it removes one or more images. So this is the command to remove images, this is the command to remove container, and all the information is available. So my request would be to spend more time on reading this. It might take some time initially, but once you get used to it, it becomes easier. Instead of you wasting time on Google search, you can get all the information in Docker CLI. So that's about this lecture. I hope you liked this, and I would again recommend you to spend more time. And in next lecture, we will go into the depth of this. Thank you everyone.